Not all elements are created equal when it comes to roller coasters. We all have our favorite elements, whether they be airtime moments, inversions, or maybe even something else. I certainly have my favorite elements, so here I am to pick out my favorite one from each major thrill coaster that I've ridden. Let's start off with Hershey Park's Comet. There isn't really anything that sticks out, but I'm going to go with the drop off the first turnaround because it's probably the strongest moment of airtime on the ride. For Fahrenheit, I'm going to say the corkscrews. These elements are both very whippy and add to the fiery nature of the ride. For Great Bear, I'm also picking the corkscrew, but this time not only because of the whippiness, also because of how it swoops over the water and creates a good near miss with its supports. For Lightning Racer, there isn't really any one moment, but I'd say one of the times where the trains pass each other going in the opposite directions. For Super Duper Looper, there's really only one choice. It's a loop. It's so smooth, and it's your nice, classic, intense Schwarzkopf loop. Stormrunner actually isn't going to be launched. It's the Flying Snake Dive, where it looks like you're going to come hurtling down at the bystanders below. On Wildcat, it can't be anything other than the brake run with that seal noise. They even brought it back this year. How exciting! At Six Flags America, Wild One is up first. You definitely want to sit in the right-hand seat if you don't want to get crushed by that bone-destroying Helix. For Vekoma SLCs, I can still not believe how tight the clearance is on that inline twist, plus the element is a whippy too. On Roar, I don't really know how to describe this element, but it's like a sideways hill that gives both good ejector and laterals. For Firebird, it can't be anything other than Brake Run, knowing that soon you'll be able to get off and as far away from that abomination as possible. I guess I never realized how much I love my corkscrews. I'm picking yet another whippy one, this time for Joker's Jinx. Superman Ride of Steel. Man, I could go on all day about how amazing and underrated this thing is, but the single greatest thing that I've experienced on any coaster is the Ride of Steel Camelback. On Batwing, the vertical loop is king, especially in the back row. You want to know the definition of intensity? Just try it. The best element on the criminally underrated Swamp Fox is probably the double up. You can barely get back in your seat before you're absolutely launched again. I gotta go with the post-Yeti scene drop on Expedition Everest. Probably the biggest throw in Animal Kingdom, although that's not really saying much. I'm gonna go with the 0G roll on Hungarian Hortail. Overall, nothing really sticks out to me on this one, F's in the chat by the way, but the 0G roll is just a nice inversion and there's a reason so many coasters have them. A coaster that has a 0G roll in the same park, or at least was in the same park, is Hulk. This one however is twice as good though because how you rip through it after that launch jet feels way faster than 40 miles per hour. The non-inverting loop has an argument, but I'm going to go with the drop on Hollywood or Pride Rocket. You get a fantastic view of not only some of the park, but also the backside of a bunch of buildings. It's awesome, before starting the ride off with a bang. I gotta go with the Helix finale on Gemini because how you lose sight of the other train and have no idea who's gonna win. For Top Level Dragster, man, there's a lot of stuff to choose from. But I'm gonna go with the launch. You were going 120 miles per hour while secured in by just a T-bar. Absolutely nuts. I know that it's an extremely common opinion, but I have to pick the Outer Bank for Steel Engines. Absolutely crazy sustained ejector airtime with a good view of Lake Erie. What more could you want? Maverick has to be the second launch. Even if you know what's coming, it's still an over 70-mile-an-hour launch that gives you the feeling of being unstoppable. While the speed hill and first overbank are good, nothing on Millennium Force compares to that drop, right alongside Lake Erie. You'd be hard-pressed to find a drop that gives better airtime and even has half the setting of Melee. Rougarou has some whippy transitions that you won't find on many other B&Ms, but I'm still going to go with the Leaning Tower of Pisa version of the vertical loop. On Corkscrew, there aren't really any elements I like per se, but I guess I'll go with the vertical loop because it was one of the first ones ever built. Valraven is often labeled as a one-trick pony, so of course I'm going to choose that one trick, the drop. I mean, I don't see how people can see dangling 223 feet in there over the greatest amusement park on earth as boring. With Raptor, I got some pretty bad rides, one of the reasons why you never see me rank it very high, but that Helix is very good. It didn't give me any pain, and man, that was intense. For Gatekeeper, I'm actually not going to go with the near misses. I'm going with the Wingover drop because you get some decent hang time in the front, and it's really something that you can't find everywhere. Wicked Twister doesn't have that many elements, but I'll go with the point where the train hits the max height because you get that feeling of weightlessness. Next is Magnum, and this one is quite clear too. All I have to say is, Triangle Hills! I don't think that anyone is talking about the amazing elements on Blue Streak because it's kind of just all airtime hills, but I guess I'll go with the first one after the drop because you have the most speed going over it. It's also not too drawn out, unlike some rides like 7-second airtime hill coaster that will go unnamed. Next we have Batman the Ride at Six Flags St. Louis, and that vertical loop is tight. Unpopular opinion, but I think that's the most intense part, so I have to pick it, obviously. Now we come to the aptly named Ninja. Alright, but this is in reality an extremely underrated ride, and the Sidewinder contributes to it. You can't see it coming, and it really takes you off guard. A back row ride in the boss is just straight chaos, and that is largely because of the feeling you get going down those drops. That is never more true than on the third drop with the trims off, like they were when I was there. If the trims are on though, the first drop is probably the best. Moving on to Vekoma Boomerangs, I have to go with the backwards Cobra roll. It may not be the most intense part, but I just love the feeling going backwards through inversions on coasters. I know guys, I'm GP. For Mr. Freeze or Blast, I'm picking another backwards inversion. The backwards inverted top hat is the most intense element that I've ever experienced on any coaster. I need to know the G-force on this. It isn't listed anywhere, but it has to be nearing 6, and that's not an exaggeration. Next is American Thunder, and I know I'm not really picking one element here, but I'm picking the 4 back-to-back smaller airtime hills. They aren't the strongest airtime moments, but still that signature GCI airtime and a lot of it. The airtime on American Thunder might not be the strongest, but one moment that is strong is the drop on Raging Bull. It doesn't really make sense because it's a pretty shallow drop. In the back, you pick up some speed on the pre-drop, and then you're just launched to the moon and back. Viper at Great America has some good airtime moments, but the best in my opinion is what I describe as the kind of double down. It's basically a turnaround that dips down before you go into another dip that gives some good flagector airtime. It's just very enjoyable. Moving on to an inversion, Maxx Force is the best inversion that I've experienced in that dog tongue. There's a surprising amount of hang time, which is just crazy when you're looking down from 175 feet in the air. American Thunder also has a moment that doesn't really look great on camera, but it really took me off guard. Sitting in the front, I got launched into that minimalistic 1-bar PTC restraint on the dip out of the Helix. On Goliath at Great America though, I knew exactly the element that would be the best, and that's the 0G stall. Hang time at 70 miles per hour, just you have to try it. Wing coasters have the reputation of being forceless, but X-Play is trying to break that. The Helix after those near misses brings the G's. Superman Ultimate Flight is also a V&M with some decent intensity. Oh man, that pretzel made me feel some sort of way that I've never felt before. We're down to the last coaster of the video, and I saved the coaster with the best name for last. SpongeBob SquarePants Rock Bottom Plunge's best element is probably the Heartline roll because the train slows down so much in it, so the hang time is pretty strong. Anyway, that just about wraps it up, so thank you guys for watching this video. Remember, leave your thoughts, suggestions, and video ideas in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys later.